allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 2, we will call to order the April 20th, 2023 Village Board meeting. Roll call. I want to congratulate the new members on their election and Jim on his. So that would be Grace Abbots and Jane Oak. They are our new board members. Happy to have you for your first meeting.
Thank you.
Roll call shows all department heads, village board, and attorneys are present. Number 4, agenda changes. Are there any? Okay, we'll go to 5, consent agenda, licenses and permits, and B, presentation of accounts and claims against the village. Are there any questions? Otherwise, I would need a motion to approve.
So we're not including this stuff? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second?
Julie, I'll start the roll call with you tonight.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
She wasn't here for that,
Yeah,
so
you.
the two new ones should
Abstain.
abstain.
But there's nothing on it, they should abstain from. The vouchers are listed and so is the license. They should be able to vote,
Okay, you're right.
should they
Sorry.
not?
Sorry, I blew up. Minutes?
Grace,
Are there no minutes?
Minutes aren't on there?
pardon?
Minutes aren't on there? Minutes
aren't on there. The minutes aren't on there,
Oh,
No,
okay.
you're right. Okay.
so,
You're at you.
Aye.
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 okay, motion carried. Then we will go to 6, pre-registered citizens to be heard. You have a limit of 5 minutes.
Gail Haig, 9203 County Road 1, Larson.
Can you do Chris too right away, the next one?
Yes, Chris
Okay.
Brickman.
Yes.
Okay. We're from the New London ATV Club. We're here to give support to the ATV ordinance change of 365 24/7 and here to answer any questions that anyone may have on that.
You know, we noticed that it's already on your agenda, item 9A. We're just here to support the change to get it open 365 24/7.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then we have Brett Springstrol.
I just wrote just on ATV if there's anything, I don't know if there's anything to actually defend it, it's gonna get passed or not, so. I guess my only points to bring up, if it doesn't get brought up is, you know, right now they're not allowed in the winter, however, we can have snowmobiles. I don't see what the difference is, and we never have enough snow for snowmobiles, so I don't see why we couldn't ride. Safety-wise, you know, I'd rather respond to a call with somebody in a roll cage and a seatbelt than people on motorcycles. So I don't see if there's a safety issue there, and those are kind of my 2 big points. So I don't know if that really matters, but that's all I had.
Thank you.
That's all.
That's all? Okay. 7, committee reports. There are none. 8, unfinished business from previous meetings. There is none. 9, new business. A, discussion and possible action on O-3-23, amending ordinance 40-12-7H, ATV, UTV usage. Do you want to talk?
Well, okay, so this is what we discussed in the last meeting, and I brought this up. I've had numerous members of the community come up to me, and they would like to see the trails, or the routes, sorry, excuse me, the routes opened year-round, and all throughout the evening and the daytime. In the last meeting, we discussed the hours, and I mean, from right now, it's limited until 10 o'clock at night until 6 in the morning, I believe. And the traffic is so light that I don't see, personally, I don't see any reason to restrict those hours at all. There doesn't appear to be any significant concern. And as far as the daytime, as far as the days are concerned, I understand that it's already open this year, but there's been a number of citizens that would like to see it opened up. There is a concerted effort in the area, not that it matters to what we do or not, but a number of the surrounding townships are trying to get open, and they would all like to see us, be the center hub, right? Where you have Ellington and Liberty and Hortonia and everybody else driving around. They would, they're going to be coming into Hortonville, and be patrons to our businesses, our taverns, our restaurants, our stores, stuff like Carl's or the drive-in. I don't see a downside to it. We've had all, it appears all of the, with one exception, which looks like some kids. Majority of all of the incidents that occurred so far have been minor. And in fact, 4 out of the listed 10 or so that were on there were people that were in at times where we had deemed that it was closed. I've talked to a number of people that have been out, and they're confused by the hours. So they drive into Hortonville and don't realize that the route's closed at a certain time. I think it's easier, simpler, cleaner if we open it up and just say it's open. It's either open or it's not open. So we're already open. Let's just open it up the rest of the way.
And then Julie, you had asked about safety, and I did call Outagamie County, and they said in the whole county, they had 1 accident from January of 2022 to the current date. So that was it, and they said they had no citations. And they said they did not see anything as far as citations or accidents in Hortonville. So.
So the only call I got was somebody who was under the impression that tonight that we were somehow opening up a bunch of roads within the county to get to Hortonville. And I think there's some, I just want to make sure everybody understands that we can only control what's in the village. We can't control Hortonia or anything like that. That was one of the questions somebody asked and said, well, when you say open the roads, then open them up so we can get to Hortonville. And that wasn't the intent of this meeting or the intent of even bringing this on here at all, right? I mean, there's been something done.
That wasn't the overall intent, but I think Ellington had their meeting last night discussing it, and Hortonia had their meeting the night before discussing it, and I know that I had talked to Angie, and she said Liberty is in the process of trying to get everything connected so that way you can drive.
Correct. I just want to
around.
make sure everyone understands that we can't
Yeah.
control anything outside the village, because that was the question I had. Well, how are you going to open up the roads in the town of Ellington? I'm like, well, we can't. We're not.
Yeah.
We don't oversee that.
But it appears that the discussion and the activity on Facebook and everything else is sort of spread to the surrounding communities already, and now everybody is bringing it up that, well, if we're open, then then they have someplace to go.
Yeah, last night I went to the Ellington meeting, and they had their public hearing, which is part of the process to open up Double M. And it was a consensus that they would take it to their board, I believe next week, to vote, and they felt it would pass by just the votes, hand votes they took last night. And then Hortonia is having their meeting on their ordinance next week on the 26th at 8 a.m. Anyone's welcome to attend. And then, like we said, Liberty. And I talked to the town of Dale. They said T was approved. I talked to Doug Wunderlich over there last night. So then when we would take over Double T in October, I'm thinking when the new highway opens, then we would be able to connect to T. So it's a matter of a process and step by step to get these roads open so that we can bring people into the community, and our people can go out of the community and go on rides, because they go all the way up north and everywhere. So we just wanted to let everyone know where everyone's at with the county roads also. Chris, do you have any input you wanna?
Well, I guess I really don't have any input. I know that we had talked about this whole ATV, UTV ordinance. We restricted the hours until the bypass comes through. We're only four and a half months into actually having this ordinance into place, because we were closed from November until April. So we really don't have a good idea of what's going on. I mean, you talk about Ellington opening up until the portion of Double M. Well, they can only open, or they can only apply for that permit to their village limit or to their town limit. It's still gonna leave a gap, so that's something that we're gonna have to look at on our end, because we would have to pay that $250 to get that 1,000 feet of road open. So I don't know.
I talked to Dean Steingraber on that. He's going to get back to me, because I said if we would go the permit process, we would go through bringing it back to the board. I even talked to him about doing a portion of M to Double M. He said it was probably something they could look at. So then we would pay that permit fee. Then it's a matter of coming to the board and saying, okay, go ahead. Then we would send out the letters to the people. We would have our public hearing. Then we would vote to open those roads. Then it would go to the county for them to approve. So it is a process, yes. So it's a matter of $250 fees, which the club has said they would help us out with that.
So in my understanding, if you pay the $250, the village would pay $250 on each one of them, and then the county board makes a decision of whether or not they want to approve that. So even if we pay the $250, it might not mean that we get that
True.
portion of the highway.
It's the chance we take.
Right.
It was my intent
Yeah.
to add that to the suggestion for the upcoming meetings later in this meeting, is to address that. I have that put on the next board meeting.
Nathan, is one of this, and maybe Chris, you can help me too, isn't there a section of road that we are doing a speed study or something on?
Yeah, basically connecting in.
Okay.
Well, no, wait,
No.
yeah, because Crest,
Okay.
starting from Mystic Heights subdivision there out. So yeah, that's where the county has accepted doing a speed study to reduce the speed down.
So reduce the speed down, and by reducing that speed down, it would then,
Allow us to just do it.
it would
He
just.
said they would never reduce that speed down. He
Yeah,
told me that yesterday.
Okay,
So
I just
there's
know
no
we're
point
in
in
the
doing a
middle.
speed study.
okay.
And as far as how many vehicles travel that road, in their 2019, it was, when they did their last vehicle study, it was 730. And anything under 1,000, they usually are okay with opening the roads. So,
I just knew there
We
was some
should be-
crossover.
able to go through the process, but that's on another board meeting.
The one thing I would add is, it's actually, in the ordinance, it's G8. I don't know why the 7 showed up, but for, if you're looking at O-3-23, it's G8, not G7.
Right.
So just when you're doing if you're planning on passing it, just remember to add that into the motion.
So if there are no other questions or concerns, could we have a motion to open this up 24/7, 365?
I'd like to weigh in. So I did a lot of researching in the last 2 weeks, could have been, to make the most informed decision possible. And just today I spoke with this man named Marcus Medina. He's a Wisconsin DNR crash response investigator. I wanted to see if the DNR, some communities do have ATV trails, like in Oconto County and Marinette County, where there's hundreds of miles of off-road trails. And that's really awesome. But as far as crashes go, he said that more crashes are happening on roadways. And of those, most of them happen at night with alcohol being involved. And the speed of the operator or the driver contributing to injury or fatality. OWIs on ATVs and UTVs increase each year as well. As it seems like the trend to be operating UTVs and ATVs is something that's growing. So you have more of these on the road. I only can imagine that you'll have more injuries, fatalities, and OWIs. And I actually want to speak on behalf of just regular motor vehicle drivers, because if it goes through, then we'll all be sharing the road. And I think there's a lot of people that in this community, they might not be familiar with driving next to side-by-sides and 4x4s. And I just think there's a big open for risk and loss if it's done too quickly. I think it would be cool to have year-round. I think that they can be dangerous during daylight hours. I think that they're even more dangerous at nighttime hours. I do support them being ridden year-round. I have a four-wheeler. I ride dirt bikes. I get it. It's fun.
Any other comments from
So
the board?
we did address some of that at the last meeting. And I brought up the fact that, you know, I have a Jeep Wrangler with the top off. I drive it all summer, and there's very little difference between that and a UTV or something else that you're going to see on the road. Are you going to see more accidents? You put more vehicles on the road, yeah, you see more accidents. I mean, if people decide instead of driving their regular vehicle, they're going to drive their UTV, yeah, of course you're going to. I mean, you see accidents with cars. Are they any more dangerous than a motorcycle? Absolutely not. And there's nobody in this room that's going to come out and tell, you know, Jody sitting in the parking lot and say, hey, well, we're going to limit motorcycles in Hortonville because they're not safe, right? I mean, we just don't do that, right? There's what the comments are singling out a group because, you know, maybe because it's something different than what we drive on the roads. But if somebody wants to drive it on the road, there's no reason, there's no real reason. We're not damaging the roads. We're not creating some new hazard because, you know, I mean, somebody pulls up next to a UTV or they pull up next to a motorcycle. You know, in fact, you know, it's harder to see motorcycles. I think a UTV is probably even safer than a motorcycle on the road. Because it's not like you know, there are a lot of times you see bumper stickers all the time, you know, to see motorcycles because it's easy to miss them because they have such a small profile. UTVs don't have that same problem. So I don't see it being any issue to add to it. Do I acknowledge that? Yeah, you're correct in that the number of accidents, if you put a vehicle on the road, if you have none of them on the road, then you have no accidents. If you put a whole bunch of them on the road and then take the vehicles off the road, yeah, you're going to have the accidents that you would have with the vehicles. Will you have more alcohol related? Yeah, because you're taking the vehicles off and now you're driving something different. The same people that were going to drive after drinking their vehicle are going to drive after drinking their UTV, and they're going to receive the same punishment. So the laws are already on the books for that, and that's not what we do. We don't debate whether or not somebody's going to go out to the bar and have too much to drink and then get in a vehicle and drive. And we don't limit the usage of regular vehicles. We don't limit the usage of motorcycles. We don't limit anything else. We're just looking at, you know, all the comments on this are looking at separating this as some special group, and it's not a special group.
I just want to point out, though, the penalties for an OWI on an ATV are totally different than the penalties for an OWI in a car. I don't know if the chief would want to talk about that. But.
So is operating a motor vehicle on a roadway different? So my understanding was if you get pulled over driving a tractor drunk on the road, you get operating a motor vehicle and intoxicated.
It's really new with the state of Wisconsin because they're opening up so many roadways.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you have some agencies that are treating it like an OWI, operating a motor vehicle. I think until some of these start going and some of these get contested, then it's going to end up going where it's more like the DNR route, where then what happens is they don't get punished as much as if you treat it as an OWI with a motor vehicle. Because a UTV, if you have an OWI in a vehicle, it goes on your driving record. If you have an OWI with a UTV, it doesn't go on your driving record.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
no points, no
There's no
requirement
points or
for-
anything, so it makes it more attractive for people to get in their UTV because they're like, wow, if I get pulled over, it doesn't show up on my driving record. In a car, it does.
Even if they're on a roadway?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's cheaper than I think 11
Much
to
cheaper.
19 over
Much
speeding
cheaper.
ticket.
So that's
It's
why
like
more
200
people.
bucks.
Right.
Versus an OWI, it's 9 something, and you're gonna have an automatic revocation, and
Mhm.
if you're driving to
So,
work, you're gonna have to.
so, right, so more people are opting to get in their UTVs and drive to the bar, okay? And then risking getting caught drinking, it's not gonna cost them as much as if they went in their car.
Is that a reason to decide one way or the other? I don't know, but it's just something to be aware of, because
Okay. I was always under the impression a motor vehicle was a motor vehicle.
There's some agencies that are treating them as an OWI as a vehicle because they're using the argument that the ATV or UTV was on a roadway,
Mhm.
so therefore,
I don't know how that would hold up in court.
I don't know either.
I thought they started doing the same thing with snowmobiles in the last few years as well.
That I don't know about.
Because snowmobiles used to be like that.
Yes.
But then once you get onto, when you're on private, there was a debate about, when you're on private land, it was a gray area, because a lot of snowmobile trails go across private land. But once you hit a public trail that was on public, or you crossed a public roadway, which is the reasoning that I was told, is that most of the stops, because they do have checkpoints for snowmobiles sometimes, most of them are typically they're always either on public, like on public roadway, like when you're actually crossing the road. Because I know people who have gotten DUIs. As soon as they took their snowmobile across the road, the officer was waiting on the other side of the road and stopping every one of the sleds, and then giving them a quick check, and gave out drunk driving. So, I mean, I don't know how that holds up in court, but
And I'm not sure, I mean, I run a lot of people throughout my career, and I don't know that I've ever seen one on a driving record for operating a snowmobile intoxicated. I've never seen one, so
Would they differentiate that, like, what type
Yeah.
of vehicle?
I don't know.
yeah, I mean,
I mean,
I don't know
so
how
that's
you
to
would
say
know.
we don't know that
Right.
it doesn't happen because
Right.
they don't differentiate.
Yeah, the only place I see that are usually up
I mean-
north where there's a lot of
The
traffic.
statutes define motor vehicle though, and that's a very specific definition. It's one that we rely on quite often in municipal defense.
Okay.
Because the statutory caps are different. So if you have a municipal employee who causes an accident in a vehicle, that cap is $250,000. If you have a municipal employee who causes an accident in something that doesn't fall to that list of what constitutes a motor vehicle, and depending on what they might be using for snow plows or whatever, that happens often, the statutory cap is $50,000. So I do know that it is defined. I don't know exactly where. But anyway, I don't know that necessarily changes anyone's thoughts on what they do here. I just think it's worth being aware of.
Okay. Well, I mean, we already have them open. So they're open right now. They're open all day, they're open every day. So they're just not open at night, and they're not open in the winter. So my suggestion would be that we open them up.
We need a motion.
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve O-3-23 with amending the the 7 to an 8 in the listing of the current ordinance.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I think because
No.
it's an ordinance amendment, you're gonna have to do a roll call.
Okay. Roll call, Julie.
Aye.
My vote.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
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 Grace?
What, this is just to turn the number from a 7 to an 8?
No, this is to approve the 365 24 hours a day.
They just had the number listed wrong for us on our sheets, and they corrected it up there. Correct, Nathan?
It's
Did you
not
correct
It's
it?
not correct. It's
It's 8 instead of 7 under G.
Right.
That's the only amendment to the
We're
ordinance.
approving the change
They're
with
approving
that
the
additional
actual
adjustment.
ordinance.
Nay.
Okay, motion carried. B, discussion and possible action on SRO contract agreement.
So this is pretty much the exact same agreement, other than I did send an email with the changes in paragraph 2 and paragraph 3, along with the, of course, the example wages in Exhibit A were updated to reflect the current the current estimated cost that the school would pay.
Thank you. Why did you feel that you should not be part of the process? It says you took out administrator in number 2.
I think it was, I guess I really don't care if they want me to be part of the process, they could. I think it's more beneficial to have the school district administrator be part of the process rather than myself. All the village employees are pretty much under the police chief, and she has more interaction with most of those employees rather than I. And the school district administrator, I think, should have a say in the actual employees that are in his building, rather than myself, where before it was myself and the chief, and then we told them who our person was to the school district administrator, which made very little sense to us when we were looking at it. So, I mean, if the chief wants to have me involved with it, that's fine, they always can, but I think it's more important to make sure that the school district's there as well represented.
Well, the school district was in there to begin with.
It was, no, it's, I think it said that they were given the thing after. I'd have to look at my email.
They were going to review it with them.
Right.
And I can understand
But
you
it-
adding him, but I do not feel you should be taken out of the mix because you are over the police department. You should know exactly what's going on, I feel.
Does it matter if we just keep you in there, Nathan, or that your seat, your
I
position?
don't care
You don't
either
care.
way. I wanted to make sure that it's clear that the school district administrator should probably be part of the process. That was the main thing I think the SRO, myself, and the chief wanted to make sure happened. So,
Does this contract align with the time period with the union contract?
no, it's not by design, so that we don't have to go through having a contract period with the union and the SRO in the same year, because the SRO contract comes up earlier because of the way that their school year ends is at the end of May, and the SRO contract goes through the union contract goes through the end of the year. So the idea is basically we wanted to, at the last one, is have it staggered so that we don't have that issue where we have a few months between when, because then you got to start the union contracts way earlier than what normally you would do.
So the union contract is done on 2024, the end of 2024.
Yeah,
So
it
we
goes
would have to
through
be
24.
reviewing that early in 2024. Therefore, when we do the 24 and 25 school year, we would already know what is happening, would we not?
Are you saying to not redo our SRO? Our SRO contract currently goes through the end of 2023 school year, which is in a few months it ends.
You've got it as 2023, 24, 24, and 25.
Right.
The school year
And that's the school year's cycle.
But we should probably do a one-year contract
So then
because we go to the end of 2024.
I don't think it matters if we have a contract with the school district and the union, it has really very little influence rather than vice versa. I guess I
You
don't.
go according to their wages, isn't that how you figure out
We
how
estimate,
you,
we don't know what their wages are gonna be.
that's why we should wait on
You-
the 24
but-
and 25.
We don't know what the insurance is gonna be, which is a larger chunk, yet that's 14% sometimes, some years, we get quoted 10%. So those are all things that the school district knows. That's why what is in Exhibit A is an estimation of the actual costs. They know that, and that's exactly why we tell them that. They get charged the cost, and that's how we've always done it. So,
What are your thoughts?
I don't see any reason to change it. I mean, their school year is a lot different than our calendar year. So I guess there's always gonna be some funky overlap or lack thereof.
I just remembered the last time that we did the union contract, I thought that right after we finished the union contract, then you went and did the SRO right after that.
the opposite.
Was it the other way around?
We did the SRO, I believe, no. We had to do the union contract earlier because of the fact that we didn't have a union contract for the next year yet.
Yeah,
So, yes, that's how it happened, but then it pushed up the timeline for us having to get that union contract done rather than at 12/31 of that year back to whatever, probably a month in March or April of that year to have it done.
And the timing of the school board approving this plays into this too, right? Isn't there certain months because of the fiscal year?
We
If
signed it
Brian-
on June 3rd, 2021,
Sergeant Parr is shaking his head, yes. It has to do something with the fiscal year.
so.
Mm-hmm.
So once we approve the union contract in 24, that's when you should be doing a 2-year then, in 24 and 25. So then in
I think, I
this
guess
would-
I would give it
then-
to
then in
legal to
June, they
decide
would
if that
approve
matters
the new
or not.
one.
I mean, if we had a contract with someone and let's say the union contract doesn't go through, I guess, is that kind of what you're getting at? Because I
Well,
don't
no.
understand the reasoning then why we would do a 1-year contract for a school resource officer rather than a 3. Like, we
Because right
can-
now, we don't have any facts or figures for 2 years out.
Right, and that's,
So if we did 1 year out, we'd be pretty
but the
close.
school district has no issue with that at all.
And it does say estimated at the top.
Right, and that's the whole point, is an estimation. We don't know which officers are gonna still be there by that time. We might have officers that leave who are the SRO. The whole fringe benefit package might change. I mean, that's all things that is basically up to the board over the next 2 to 3 years. So, I mean, if the board decides to pay more for, let's say, health insurance, that portion of that cost is gonna go to the school district regardless of what our contract says.
So basically, it's not really a contract, it's a guesstimate.
Yeah.
Is this the agreement that's been used in the past?
Yes, it's the exact same agreement they've used for years, and I mean, I guess,
Without issue. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
looking through it quickly, I mean, it seems like there might be additional items worth putting in here, like if the costs were to go up exponentially, what are the expectations of the parties from a termination standpoint? You know, maybe the school, for whatever reason, doesn't want to pay whatever that number is. I also wonder, when your SRO is like on vacation, or are we providing another officer to fill in? Yeah. But if it's been working without issue, I mean, it's sort of one of those things where
I mean, it's not a perfect,
it might be more
Contract.
their risk than the village's risk at that point. It doesn't appear to give the school district an out, but I, you know, I understand the concerns too. I think those are more questions that I would be asking the school than maybe the village.
Does anyone have any questions? If not, we would need a motion to approve this.
I'll make a motion to approve, and I'm not sure how this needs to be worded, the agreement between the Hortonville Area School District and the Village of Hortonville for the school resource officer for school years of help me out here,
2023 to 2025.
2023 to 2025.
Second?
Roll call, Julie?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. C, discussion on acceptance of prosecutor resignation notice.
So you received this in the mail, currently, looking at, probably using our current, legal counsel as prosecutor. So, they will be getting us a contract sometime, but
So it was just an information thing, we don't need a motion to accept it?
no.
Okay. All right, then moving to D, proclamation of Arbor Week being April 21st through April 28th, 2023. The proclamation is in your packet. We don't need a motion to accept this. It's just a proclamation. Does anyone have any questions?
We did change it to a week long rather than a day. Just part of it was weather, and we kind of figured going forward, do a week and kind of make it easier for us for planning for different events during that week going forward. So,
Kind of
Okay.
good that it includes Earth Day too. Spin
Yeah, and it also could include some of the youth clubs and things. Yeah.
So this year, it was scheduled for tomorrow, but because of the weather, we moved it back to, it's gonna actually happen on Wednesday next week. It is Arbor Day, Earth Day celebration.
Yeah.
We have all of the third grade classes coming to the building here. We're gonna plant some trees and some native wildflowers with kids.
What time are you doing that?
There's one from 10 to 11, and another 2 classes are coming from 1 to 2.
Oh.
And that's part of being Tree City USA as well.
Okay. We'll move to E, discussion and possible action on appointment of citizen members of the commission. We would be appointing to Planning and Zoning, Richard Grunwald and David Moe till the year 2026. The other appointment would be the Zoning Board of Appeals. That would be Robert Reamer and Peter Oak to the year of 2026. I would need a motion to accept these.
I'll make a motion to accept the appointments.
Can I ask a really quick question though? Does this have to do with citizen members? So this is just of the commission, but this isn't the committee discussion, right?
no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
this is commission,
It's a
the committee.
No.
I just wanted to make, well, I know it's commission
Yeah.
and committee, but I just want to make sure that that's, because
No,
I've had,
that's just for our Planning and Zoning and Zoning Board of
okay, I
Appeals.
just want to make sure.
I already made a motion.
I need a motion,
I already
please.
made
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
one. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. F, discussion and possible action on resolution R-12-23 to discontinue a portion of Shy Lane.
I'm gonna just briefly mention some stuff, and then I think Ashley has a little more detail. Basically, Charlene, discontinuation right now, the resolution would go out. If it approved tonight, then we would have, I think, 40 days to wait before having a public hearing. This is in reference, basically, the discontinuation would be happening in reference to the replat of West Wind. West Wind, Phase 2, or the replat of West Wind. The Kinnison property that was never really finished out. So in order to put in a cul-de-sac, we have to do a small discontinuation of a portion of the road that connected Shy Lane from Cordy Lane to Jacob. Because Shy Lane wouldn't go through anymore, so it's gonna cul-de-sac. So this is just discontinuing a portion of that.
Yeah, they're replatting a portion of the underlying plat. I think this is probably a best practice, just to ensure that we have record of providing notice for any property owner that may have relied on or thought that they could rely on that through street that might not be a part of the replat. So
So does this affect anybody who has does anybody have an address of Shilene?
I think one property owner at this point,
So does this change their address?
no.
No, it's still gonna be called.
Because there still will be a Shilene, it will just, there will be a cul-de-sac rather than a connection through to Jaco.
Okay.
How you
Yep.
pronounce it.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you for
So just
clarifying.
ensuring that we're providing the proper notice.
We're just voting to shorten,
Basically, yeah.
shorten that road.
Right.
Just officially shorten it so it can turn into a cul-de-sac.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we would need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve R-12-23, discontinuing a portion of Shilene.
Second?
Roll call. Julie?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. G, discussion and possible action on resolution R-7-23, no mo may.
So I guess this is whether or not you guys wanna do no mo may again.
This is
Did
starting to
we
get
have any
dropped, so-
problems last year with anything?
I mean, not that I can recall, I mean, you still have some issues with some people that you gotta hound, but those people we would have had to anyway. It's the same houses, I mean, realistically, I didn't think it was too bad.
Most people don't even make it to the end of May, myself
Right.
included. But the people who are gonna be, the people who aren't going to mow, aren't going to mow
Right.
regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah. I just saw a news story the other day that some of the municipalities are dropping the no mow may because they found that the grass itself isn't one of the plants that actually seeds that helps promote the bees. It's wildflowers and other things that you don't typically see. I mean, we see dandelions, I guess those are.
For us,
But
it's
that's-
dandelions.
They need
It's-
dandelions.
They need the dandelions, and for us, it's a whole month where we just don't mow the yard, and then the dandelions go kind of crazy, but I don't see any reason why we can't continue it. I don't think there's been a problem.
Are we requiring signs?
No. We
Would that
haven't.
not be beneficial?
I mean, we'd have to get signs then,
Don't
potentially
you have
for.
signs, Julie?
I do. Every year you guys hand them back to me, and then I bring them back at the beginning of May.
Yeah.
I have some signs,
you
but I
can-
don't think requiring them.
If we required them, you'd probably need to get a good amount. I mean, we have over 1,000 parcels, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, we could do it, and I don't know how much they have where we normally pick them up from Lawrence.
There's a professor at Lawrence that I received the box, and we're still on the same box that we had.
Would it
2-3
not
years ago?
be easier?
I kept
Because if
my
my
eyes.
neighbor
Yeah.
does it and I don't like it, then I could say, well, I have a sign that says I'm legal, I can do this.
Who's
Rather
policing
than
that?
But
you
we're not
receiving
We're not
20 phone calls
but we're
at
not
the village
enforcing
saying,
anything
hey, my
anyway.
neighbor's not mowing their lawn.
I don't think we got, from my recollection and thinking back, I don't think we got a single call last year
You
from
didn't.
someone about their neighbor it wasn't until after No Mo May
Okay.
that we got one. And those, basically the plan is at this point, what we do is we wait for typically the last day of May, and then on the Monday after, whenever that ends, is when we kind of go around and say you have 48 hours to cut it, otherwise, like, go through the ordinances.
Okay.
Because I think typically we like to give people the weekend to kind of potentially cut.
Well, and I found it funny that the people that were participating in No Mow May, most of them cut their grass before the end of May. It just did last year.
They
it
grow
falling
so
over.
fast.
Yeah.
The grass starts falling over.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Most people who were participating didn't even wait till the end of the month. So, I don't see any reason why why we wouldn't continue.
Are there any other questions? Otherwise, we would need a motion to accept R-7-23.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, go ahead.
Go if you want it. I'll make a motion to approve R-7-23, resolution to promote No Mow May.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. H, discussion on comprehensive plan RFP.
So, the RFP was I put this together, basically, to get our comprehensive plan updated. It's supposed to be updated every 10 years, and that 10 years ends in April of next year. Typically, this process can be pretty long to get it fully done. So basically, it would be an RFP, we'd go out for cost estimations and see what comes in.
And this is the plan that we have to have in order to be able to apply for grants?
No,
No?
this is a state statute.
Oh, state change, okay.
That is the outdoor rec plan
Okay.
that we don't have to do, that we do for grants purposes.
Who did the last one, Nathan?
I believe it was East Central Regional Planning. They used to do it more for very low cost, but then it was defunded, and basically now it's very expensive for each municipality. So it could be anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000.
You're just looking for a motion for our 1123?
For the most part, other than, I guess, if you guys, I would look through it, see if you have questions on the process, determining if you guys are good with the overview process and looking at the applicants. And then there's special areas of concern that we'd like to focus on. Those were the areas that I think that staff kind of came up with, and some of it was from the last one. Because the last one was done in 2013 in preparation too for the bypass that was supposed to be done in 2014. So.
Well, I mean, it says just discussions, or do we need anything on this, or?
No, not yet, because at this point, it's a little early for us to go out for RFPs, but I didn't know if there was any discussion on if you guys had thoughts, adding things, taking things off. Yeah. So we can, it'll be brought back at a later date for the actual RFP to go out, but I was just, it's something that only happens every 10 years, so I kind of wanted to give you guys a little time with it. So, and if anyone needs a copy of it, we have a bunch of copies in our office. Yeah, they're pretty large.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can download it, suppose it on our website, but physical copies you can go through.
Yeah, if you can give me a copy of it.
Any
If there's anything I
questions?
want to address.
Okay, we will move then to I, discussion and possible action on resolution 11-23, amending outdoor recreation plan 2021 through 2025.
So this is the comprehensive outdoor rec plan that we did in 2021, or for 21 to 2025. The amendment would allow us to gain some more points on our grant that we're having done for Alonzo Park, potentially. So it's basically adding in the I believe the playground, the splash pad potential, and some of the other features into that outdoor rec plan. I believe the only documents we had that potential splash pad was in Miller Park, which we then, after kind of looking at Miller Park, we decided it would be better to do that at, yeah.
So adding this helps you score points on your grant application, which makes it stronger that you chance of receiving the grant.
Okay.
So the things are listed on the third page, basically that we would be adding into the outdoor rec plan for Alonzo Park.
This is just adjusting the plan so we can.
Right.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve R-11-23, amending the outdoor recreation plan.
I'll second.
Roll call. Julie?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. J, discussion and possible action on 2016 Ford Interceptor.
Yeah, so The 2016 Ford that we took from the PD when they got their new vehicle for the admin office, I guess the transmission's out. So the price was a little steep, and at this point, we're kind of at a loss with it. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily take this quote and go with it, but we could still price it out more, but I don't know if it's really gonna get that much better in pricing. I know it'd probably, even if we dropped it, $2,000, it still is something to really figure out if we want to even do it at this point.
We did ask All World for a quote on the car, and they said they would give us $500 for it.
Which I just turned in my horrible car.
Yeah, right.
So.
Get scrapped
it
for more than
should've
$500
been-
bucks.
Is this the vehicle that you're using?
No, it's actually the newer one. It's Aaron's using.
Okay. Yeah.
What'd you do?
$500.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many miles are on it?
To be honest, I don't know, but
I don't know.
I would have to look. I mean, obviously, you could potentially repair it and then try to sell it and try to get at least a little more than what we put into it when we do the repair. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't go with All World Ford for that. I think it's a little overpriced.
Yeah.
I'm not a car person, but a few people in the office did say that we could potentially do some type of, what did you say?
Oh, rebuild transmission?
Yeah, rather than a brand new one. So, I mean, we could look at other options, but I don't know if it still makes sense for us to potentially keep it after we fix it.
Well, if we didn't
So
keep it,
what-
what would you
yeah,
use for a
drive?
vehicle?
Yeah,
What's your options?
His, and then he's gonna use
Sure.
the Gator all summer, he said.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's probably not gonna work.
I guess my worry is to put anything into it and then continually putting things into this thing, because I mean, it's sad that 2014 is lasting longer than the 2016 for that, but yeah.
Okay, well, I think, to go along with what we 100% of the time require, we need to get another quote.
Right, we're not asking for an approval on the quote, because
Yeah.
we would never even actually, if it was $6,000, you're better off just getting rid of it. I mean, and trying to sell it to someone and let them fix it. rather
Except
than-
that we have to
Have
get
you-
another vehicle and
Yeah, have you
that's.
priced out the value of it? Just looked online to? see
Looked
what-
online, yeah, I mean, so, depends. Most of them are for sale outside of the state, so I don't have necessarily that great of information in
Okay.
state, but anywhere from 10 to 14,000 if it's
Okay.
fixed.
Yeah,
So, I mean, there is potential for resale if you do a fix on it, but I think, obviously, we both think that this is way too high to pay.
yeah.
So
Oh,
that's.
yeah, I agree.
That's
I
why we
would-
didn't necessarily, we're not asking for anything to be approved, I guess, on the actual
Yeah,
car fix.
But I would be interested to know what the other pricings were to see if it was worth, if it was,
Right, I mean, we
Yeah.
can get more
6
quotes
grand
to
is
see what
high,
we
but-
wanted to do, but we just wanted to kind of get you guys informed on where we're at. with
yeah,
this.
I would.
I think
would
some of
go-
the prices I saw were more like 8,000 or 9,000 that we could get for it, so do we want to stick $6,000 into it?
Yeah, I would look at like, call up like Ray's and Nina or something like that, and that's somebody that could rebuild the transmission. Or call, like Schmidt's outside of town or Gibson's and see if they have a used one. And what the cost of that would be. Versus, yeah, and
Yeah.
definitely, All World Ford, $500.
yeah, Al's in
kind
New
of
London
laughable.
also
6,000.
rebuilds trannies, doesn't he?
What's that?
Does Al's in New London?
I don't know,
I don't know.
but yeah,
I would look around.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still probably gonna be a couple thousand
yeah,
to get it fixed, at least, 2,000 or 3,000, but if it's worth $10,000, then that's obviously, something that's worthwhile.
right.
Okay, then we'll move to K. Any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion?
I'd like to see the section of, I'd like to see some discussion and possible action in the next meeting for Highway M that stretch from the where it starts out of town to Double M, to be able to connect to them.
And just that one?
I think so, to start. Unless
I
there's
think we
some-
should also look into, they said they would possibly look into M to double M.
Yeah,
So you
that's what I
said-
was just saying, M to Double M.
Right, but you were saying just that little section, or you wanna go, you know?
Well, that's the,
So we'd
the-
have to have M approved also,
Yeah, M to Double M.
yeah.
Do you want
So
to
it'd be
just look
two
at
roads.
all access points?
Sure.
That's probably better.
Or,
I don't know if it's a topic of discussion, but, or just a request. Could we get the, where we are with our budget, that sort of thing, like the quarterly, where we're at?
It's in the
It's, that was that whole thing then? Okay.
Yeah,
Well-
that's in the packet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Not
I
the,
thought that
not
was
the court
some-
part though, those are two separate.
That was
there's
what I
two
was looking
parts.
at, was
Yeah.
the court
The
part.
court
Okay,
part's
so
one
then-
part, and then the other part from
Never
ours
mind.
was,
Okay, and honestly, I thought it was all court stuff.
no,
Okay,
the spreadsheet looking thing was court.
Yeah, it was
and
a
then the
little
Hellers was
confusing.
separate.
okay, got it.
Okay, we'll go to 10, report of village officials. Clerk treasurer, Jane.
My report's in the packet. And I just want to make you aware that we did have a fraudulent charge on our BMO charge card for the village. It was with the Public Works card, charge of $98.99 through Angelic Threads store in Texas.
Okay.
Lauren called them and they have had many issues, apparently, this store. So the FBI are investigating it, and I called BMO and they canceled the card. And they're investigating it and they're gonna issue us a new card.
Not how you get a new truck there,
So-
yeah.
Oh. And that's about all I have.
Any questions for Jane? Okay, we'll move to B, Director of Public Works, Aaron.
My report's in the packet, and I guess just to let the board know, I am meeting with MSA next week to look at getting some potential help with them in updating and bringing our GIS system and information up to date.
are you gonna provide, so the last one here is the continuing listing of the unused items, or are you gonna give us an updated at some point?
Yeah, it's gonna be opened in, I think, May 2nd, and we haven't received any bids.
So are we still just the ones that we talked about? We're not adding more yet?
We wanna see how this one goes first.
Okay.
How are the interviews going? Can you give us any updates?
I can. We had an interview today for a summer LTE position. We did really well. I think we will be putting together an offer letter for them. And we also had a couple interviews for Rob's whole position. I made some really good interviewees, and we made an offer to one of the people that applied just 20 minutes before the meeting, and they accepted. So we'll be sending out a conditional offer letter to them for them to review the salary and all the benefits and things, and if that all looks good, we're hoping to have them starting May 8th.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to C, police chief.
My report is also in the packet. One thing that's changed is under the miscellaneous information. Today we were supposed to have the fire drill at 1:45 and then again at 6:45. That's been postponed until tomorrow because there was a possibility of some type of weather today. So we posted that all over Facebook.
Okay.
Any
Any questions?
Any information on the fake message or the fake contacts, and it was the police department? Okay.
I think we only received 2 or 3 complaints that we were informed of.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was great that we put it on Facebook right away and everybody was spreading it, sharing it, so.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move to D, Library Director, Ally.
My report was in the packet, and I handed out the finalized version of our summer library brochure. We sent that to the printers yesterday. And I will have first quarter stats for you next meeting.
Any questions for Ally? Okay, we'll move to E, Attorney, Ashley.
I don't have anything for you. Happy to answer questions.
Okay. F, Administrator, Nathan.
Busy doing, we filled out our information for the expenditure restraint. Busy kind of doing some of the TID annual documentation updates that we have to do for the 4 TIDs. And then spent some time working with the court and the clerk and our accounts payable person on some of our financial report and our court report. So, yeah.
Any questions for Nathan? Okay, G, Building Permit Report, there is none. H is the court report, which is in the packet. Are there questions?
Just that I would like to get that in Excel just so I can play around with it if possible.
Anyone else? Okay, then we will move to I, Financial Report. Did anyone have questions?
This is just our up to Q1 here.
So this
So-
is the first 4 months?
First
Yeah.
3
No.
months, 3 months,
3
Q1.
months?
Well, it's a mix of the first 3 and kind of 2, depending on the timelines that companies end up sending us their invoices. Because it's for the end of March 31st, we don't always get our March bills until mid-April. So some of them haven't actually been processed yet. So like fuel for the police department, that is only for 2 months. That's January and February. So there's certain things like that, but for the most part, it's 3 months.
What will that post in period 4 instead of period 3?
No,
Or it'll still backtrack to period 3?
yeah, it would go to period 3.
So, what did we do with the Blackwater boat landing? I mean, I thought we're gonna put rails up or something like that. It's like a $250 budget and $1,690 spent on it already.
For the boat landing materials,
that what it
I would
is?
have to look at that one.
I think it might be the porta potties.
Oh, yeah. It's probably the porta potties that we paid for out of there.
Okay.
Part of that, I believe half of that, or a little less than half of that, gets paid for on a revenue side from the Blackwater Lake District as well.
Okay.
So that's one of those amounts that we would increase starting next year if we want to continue doing that. This was the first year we did it. So.
Okay. And then I saw in our snow, I don't see it right now, but in our snow removal budget, our local budget for the year is pretty close to like the full year, whereas our county budget is you still have a significant portion left.
County's really delayed in their billings.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we get early snowfall, we really don't have anything left in the coffers to plan for that.
No, but
Okay.
the way that we budget for the personnel every year is for their total costs. So if we're over in snow removal for our personnel, for the most part, we should be able to pull that from the streets budget, which usually encompasses more of the cost of our personnel for public works.
Okay.
Other than the extra from any type of overtime, of course, is something that isn't necessarily budgeted in to that streets, other than we do budget a small amount for overtime. I believe it's between 8,000 and 13,000 euros.
So
I don't know the exact number though.
I assume this is a spreadsheet too that you created?
Well, we export, yeah.
So is there a way to get it set in Excel too? Just because for my personal looking at it, it's a lot easier for me when I see it as a percentage. So if I can
Yeah.
take the year to date and the budget and get a percentage out of it,
We
Makes
talked
sense to
about
me
that
that
after, yeah, it was a little late, so basically this came out, we had it finished late on the day on Tuesday, because we lost what we were doing, so then I was trying to show them how to do it. That was something I mentioned, is we forgot to do a percentage because it.
Because I mean, like the one he just said, it would show up at like 98%,
Right.
and you'd be like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
It should be at
So normally,
25.
I think what we did in the past, we had that in there, and then we also did a color coding of, red
Almost,
is
yeah,
over,
yeah.
It just so it stands out easier.
Orange are in danger, red are
Right.
bad.
So, that was, I can still send you it in Excel, but that is something that we're gonna probably change.
Yeah, I mean, if you can send it to me, I don't mind doing it just for my purpose, but I mean, it's definitely something, and we can look at those problem children and say, and for budgeting, we can look at it for next year.
Right. Agreed.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to 11, communication and miscellaneous business. A, Black Otter Lake District News. Pat?
Meeting next Wednesday at 6. Cleanup is May 6th, and just found out today they added 20 more slots to the Black Otter site. So they must have had demand for more. I know the Boy Scouts filled up some and then plus. So if anybody's interested in signing up, there's room available.
Any questions for Pat? Okay, we'll go to B, Hortonville Hortonia Fire District News.
We met on Wednesday, the 12th. We went over the current budget to date and expenditures, as well as the checking and reserve equipment funds for both fire and EMS. I have those numbers if anybody is curious to see them. Fire department, the truck and trailer are on track and expected mid to late July. RJ Marks is going to be doing the decals on site. SAP, I'm not sure, I think there might be an update to this, but they were waiting on contract signatures as of the time of the meeting. And they're still looking ahead at a new pumper tender truck, which is estimated between $600,000 and $750,000. Currently it's taken about 3 years to get them built. So the fire department is looking at potentially starting the order in 2 to 3 years from now. So that way they could be looking at it somewhere in the 5 to 6 year range from now. Number of calls, looks like they have, the fire department had 31 calls, which is above average. They're on pace for 120 calls this year. The EMS grant update, the first half was dispersed and used for the truck and for schooling. I looked at the truck, it's really nice F-150 that's sitting currently at the Hortonville Hortonia Fire Department building. They're still looking at getting estimates for the graphics and the lights. The first number that they had was a little bit too expensive, so they're looking at getting different estimates. The discussion that they had was that they're going to have, I think Chad is going to take it to, after it's all done and ready to go, Chad's going to take it and have it as a vehicle to take to his place of work during the day, so it's out and about to be seen and immediately available, so they won't have to go to the fire station to get it and then respond to the calls. So with the grant stuff, they're also getting additional AEDs, trauma training materials, and RTF supply bags. I don't know what those are. And then their number of calls, they're up to 96 to date. I have the fire calls if anybody's interested in seeing them. They're all broke down as to vehicle, fire alarm, structure fires, vegetation fires, service calls. If anybody wants to see them, they can come up to me afterwards. And that's it. Next meeting's July 12th.
Is still okay staffing-wise as far as?
EMS is great staffing right now. The fire department didn't mention anything, but in the last meeting they said they're working through their new candidates and getting them all up and trained. So I think right now everybody's pretty good for staffing. That doesn't mean that can't change fairly rapidly. If the influx drops off and guys are ending, but the gist of what I got is everybody is really likes the SAP plan. That's the what's the?
Service award program.
Service award program. Basically, it's sort of like a pension program for retention, and we did discuss some of the different numbers, and the contract hasn't been done yet, but they discussed backfilling some of the volunteers who've been on the department for like I think 10 plus years or so, and because of the state matching, the expense is fairly minimal in comparison to the overall expense, to be able to take the people who've already been there for 10 plus years or so and then backfill their portion, so that way when they no longer volunteer, that they can collect just like the people, just like the individuals who are currently volunteering.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we move to C, Gold Cross Ambulance Run Report and News, and it is in the packet. D, Hortonville Civic Association. Jane, do you have anything on the egg hunt?
Well, we had to postpone it, so we did it this last Saturday. Not as good of a turnout, but we kind of expected that just because it wasn't the holiday weekend. But all the eggs were picked up. Kids went home with lots and lots of eggs in their bags, and they got their bikes and treats, and they were all happy. And we'll do it again next year.
It was very nice.
Thank you.
E, Senior Activities Committee.
We had our potluck and bingo. I'm sorry, it was a birthday party and bingo. And we met, that was this past Monday. We had a meeting today. We mapped out our calendar for May, June, July, and August. Erin's coming first Monday in June to speak at our potluck. We're gonna have a picnic in July and some outdoor games, a movie. So getting some things on the calendar, and the reason we're mapping so far ahead is because of Village Voice going out 4 times. So then we can give exact dates and activities to the people so they'll know what's coming up. We're continuing to work on Autumn Fest, which is October 10th, and we have both Nathan and village staff and Todd Tim from the school district planning to speak on the present and future of Hortonville.
Any questions for Pat? Okay, we'll go to 12. Comments and suggestions from citizens present. Anyone? Okay, we'll go to 13. Motion to appoint minute taker for closed session. And I'll make a motion to appoint Shauna.
Joy.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 14, I would need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make a motion for board to go into closed session under state statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are now 15, 5-minute recess to clear the meeting room. Number 17, any action on matters discussed in closed session? There is none. Number 18, I would need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are now adjourned.